Toke walked into the greenhouse, her favorite spot for girls' lunch, wearing a chic black jumpsuit that shone as it caught the light emanating through the restaurant's windows. Her steps were long, confident and calculated, heads turned as she walked, but she was used to it. After all, she had worked hard to build herself into a woman who exuded elegance with every step. Toke was young, wealthy, and successful, and that was everything the average Lagos girl aspired to be and more. However, in spite of her elegance, she was single, but not by chance though, nor by lack of admirers. It was a decision she consciously made, a decision that was born from scars hidden under her fierce exterior. Toke had spent several years loving men who seemed to be heaven sent, only to discover each time that they were far from divine. Her last relationship had nearly destroyed her, pulling her through a heartbreak so heart-shattering that it landed her in the hospital. It was the kind of love that stripped a person bare, only to leave them cold and abandoned. Her friends, most of them who were now married, often tried to convince her to let go of her grudge against men. They would smile and try to make light of her situation, saying, "Toke, you're just too hard on them. All men are not the same." But Toke would laugh, shaking her head at them. "Continue to deceive yourselves. The last set of reasonable men ended with our parents' generation. But if you choose to believe them, then go ahead and enjoy your happily ever after. I'll be here fighting the real battle for you." Today was one of those afternoons when they had lunch together, and Uju, her closest friend, had arranged lunch for them all, insisting they all came as she had exciting news. They sat around the table, sipping mocktails and sharing the latest gossip about their lives. Sharon boasted about her husband's new promotion. Funke grinned about her toddler's latest antics, and the others threw in one of their own marriage tales. And then Uju dropped the bombshell. "I am engaged, guys," she announced, flashing her left hand where a sparkling ring caught the afternoon light. The ladies screamed out in surprise. They were all excited except for Toke. She was shocked and confused about the news. "Engaged? To who, Uju?" Her tone was friendly, but her eyes were narrowed, studying her friend's expression. "His name is Chuka," Uju replied excitedly. "We met 6 months ago. Can you believe it? 6 months and he already knows I am the one." Toke was even more shocked. 6 months? Uju, that is not enough time to know if he is truly who he says he is. The other ladies turned to Toke, looking frustrated at her anti-men sermons. Sharon couldn't hold back anymore and bluntly told her, "Toke, must you spoil every happy moment? Just be happy for love for once. Not everyone is doomed for heartbreak." Toke forced a smile. "I am happy for you, Uju, but just make sure you know what you are getting into." Uju then said to Toke, "You'll be my chief bridesmaid, won't you?" She beamed excitedly. Toke could only nod, even though her mind was already running with questions and concerns. Anyway, if this was what Uju wanted, then she would play her part, at least until she had reason not to. 1 week later, Toke went to a nearby mall to get groceries. She was scanning a shelf, debating between 2 brands of cooking oil, when she heard a voice behind her. "Excuse me, miss, are you as indecisive as I am about the oil?" She turned and was surprised to see a man. The man was tall, dressed casually but smartly, with a charming smile and a clear air of confidence. He went closer to her. "My name is Chuka. What is yours?" Toke raised an eyebrow as she quickly put 2 and 2 together. "Chuka? Uju's fiancé?" "No, it has to be a coincidence. There are many men named Chuka in Lagos, right?" She brushed it off and responded politely, "I am Toke." Chuka's eyes were fixed on her the whole time, and he seemed intrigued by her. "I don't mean to be forward, but I saw you earlier and I couldn't resist saying hello. There is something about you. Your presence, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's a little crazy, but I feel like I need to get to know you better." Toke narrowed her gaze. Her instinct warned her that this was too strange. She had dealt with men like him before, smooth, confident, and always looking for the next thrill. She handed him her card and with a forced smile told him, "Fine, but don't get your hopes up." Over the next few days, Chuka called and texted persistently, but Toke, who was serious about staying away from men, knowing that all of them had the same DNA, remained hostile to him. "I am not interested in early feelings, Chuka," she told him one evening. But he was relentless. "I mean it, Toke. I have never met anyone like you. You're fire. I want to be part of it. This isn't about a fling. I want something real." Real? Toke laughed coldly. Men like him had destroyed her belief in real long ago. Meanwhile, Uju announced that her wedding would take place in 2 months' time and needed her girls to join her in preparations. "I want all my girls involved," she said cheerfully. Toke couldn't help herself and asked with concern, "Why the rush, Uju? Why not take your time?" But Funke, Sharon, and the other ladies groaned in unison. "Oh, Toke, really? Not everything is a conspiracy now. Stop being paranoid." They ignored Toke and continued planning cheerfully. Then Kelly, one of the single ladies among them, leaned over to Uju and whispered, "When will we finally meet this mystery fiancé of yours?" Uju giggled. "Okay, I'll introduce him to you all at dinner this weekend." On the evening of the dinner, Toke got dressed, but she couldn't erase the disturbing feeling in her chest. The man she had met at the mall couldn't possibly be Uju's fiancé, could he? The ladies arrived first and they made the dinner lively even before the food came. Finally, Uju arrived, holding Chuka's hands and smiling excitedly. Chuka looked just as polished as the day Toke had met him, but his face went pale when his eyes met hers across the table. Toke's lips curled into a cold smile. So it was him. The other ladies were really impressed and complimented Chuka and Uju, claiming they were perfect for each other. Chuka barely looked at Toke's way for the rest of the evening, trying so hard to hide his discomforts. After the dinner ended, they all left, and Toke's phone rang as she stepped inside her apartment. "Toke, please, I can explain," Chuka pleaded desperately. Toke rolled her eyes. "Explain what? That you are engaged to my friend while trying to date me?" "It's not like that," he pleaded. "If I had met you at first, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't have engaged her. I truly feel something real for you." Toke went crazy. "If I swear for your generation, Sha, it will affect them. But this is none of their business. Excuse me, sir, with all due respect, are you okay? Are you really okay? You still have the audacity to tell me you would have what if you had met me first? Ah, okay. See, just do yourself a favor, Chuka. Don't play games with Uju. If you are not serious about her, then end it now." Immediately, she ended the call and blocked his number. This encounter only made her grow deep in her belief that men were indeed from a crazy planet. She was confused here. She couldn't sit and watch her friend fall deeper into the trap of that liar. But as much as she wanted to tell Uju, a nagging voice reminded her that her friend wouldn't believe her. Uju was in love, and so she was blind and dumb. The next day, Toke decided to try something. She arrived at Uju's apartment, bracing herself. She had decided to try a gentle approach. "How well do you know Chuka? If he was cheating, would you want to know?" Toke asked. Uju was surprised at Toke's questions, but she laughed it off, waving her hands. "Oh, Toke, you are so paranoid. Chuka cheats ke. The same Chuka who can barely go 1 hour without calling me. I trust him." Toke tried to press further, but Uju snapped at her. "Just stop, Toke. Not every man is out to hurt us. Just because you have been unlucky doesn't mean the rest of us are." The words were sharp and they stung, but Toke swallowed her pride and let it go, seeing that her friend was hooked. If Uju wanted to walk down that aisle with Chuka, then she would be there ready to support her as a friend. On the wedding day, the ceremony began beautifully. The church was filled with guests, dressed in their finest, eager to witness the union. As the priest began the vows, he paused, asking if anyone had an objection. Toke's heart pounded and her hand twitched. Her friends who were sitting close to her noticed it and sensed that she wanted to disrupt the beautiful ceremony with her bad spirits. So they held her arms tight, preventing her from standing or raising up her hands if she wanted to. The church was silent and the vows were exchanged, making Uju and Chuka officially husband and wife. They finished at the church and then moved to the reception hall where they celebrated. As the celebration was in full force, each of Uju's friends took turns in sharing heartfelt speeches they had prepared beforehand. They poured out their hearts to Uju, expressing their love and wishing her a marital life full of bliss. One by one, they all came, and when it was finally the turn of Toke, she also came out smiling innocently. She looked at Uju tenderly and began, "Uju, I love you dearly, you know that. But sometimes love means saying the hard things, even if it hurts. I'm sorry, but I don't think you're making the right choice." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Uju looked at Toke shocked and confused, but Toke did not mind. She continued, "I know you are deep in love with Chuka, this man. He doesn't deserve you. He is a serial cheat and a liar." A loud whoa erupted from the crowd, who were shocked but thrilled by the unfolding drama. Chuka couldn't bear it and rose up violently, denying the allegations. "Uju, don't listen to her. She's just jealous of you because I chose you. She has been throwing herself at me, but I kept on turning her down. She's just bitter and envious." Everyone turned to look at Toke with judgmental eyes. Some were even shouting at her already. But Toke smiled softly. She was not bothered one bit, as she had come prepared. She then turned back and pointed at Kelly. "Kelly, what were you doing with Chuka last night at the King's Hotel? Do you want to talk about it, or should I show everyone your dirty pictures?" Kelly froze and Chuka was shocked. Clearly, he had not expected this. Uju was bewildered and she faced Kelly. "Kelly, please tell me she's lying. Tell me Toke is lying." But Kelly couldn't deny it. She was so ashamed. "Uju, I am so sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I swear. He kept saying he didn't love you, that he was just..." Uju almost choked in disbelief. She stumbled backwards as if struck by lightning. She had heard enough. No, this should be a dream. She clutched her head as hot tears dropped from her eyes. Chuka moved towards her, desperately begging, "Uju, please, it is not what you think. I made a mistake, but it is you I love." But Uju stepped back and ran away from the hall. The betrayal and shame was too much for her to bear. Just then, Sharon stood up with fury in her eyes and yelled at Toke, "Look at what you have done, Toke. You have ruined your best friend's wedding because you can't have one of your own. Are you happy now?" But Toke turned to face Sharon and her voice dropped to a dangerous tone. "Sharon, maybe you should worry less about my single life and more about the fire burning in your own house." Sharon was taken aback, but she immediately shunned Toke. "Oh, shut up. There is nothing wrong in my marriage. Do you think everyone is unlucky like you?" Toke smiled coldly. "Oh, nothing is wrong with your marriage, of course, and that's maybe because your maid is always handling your husband's need when you are not around. Would you like me to elaborate?" A loud "ah" came from the crowd, who were intrigued at the way the drama was degenerating. They had never experienced a thing like this, not even in the cinema. Sharon staggered backwards, clutching her chest in shock. She stammered, No, that's not true. That can't be true." But Toke shrugged. "I caught them together myself one day when I visited, and you were not around. I did not want to say anything then. But if we are airing our dirty laundry today, why should I hold back?" Sharon had heard enough, and without another word, she stumbled out of the hall angrily. She needed to confront her husband and that maid. Toke turned back to face her remaining friends, who were shocked at the whole drama. Since she had started, why not? Let everyone have a fair share of a little snoop into the reality of their perfect marriage. Toke then pointed to Nneka. And you, Nneka, do you know your husband has another woman he runs to whenever he claims to be away for business in Ibadan? Nneka's eyes widened and her mouth opened in disbelief. But Toke was not done. Your husband is not just doing business on those trips. He's got a whole second life there with a woman who is more than happy to keep him warm. I thought you knew, but if you don't, well, now you do. Another chorus of "ah" broke out among the guests. Nneka let out a painful cry and covered her mouth, struggling to hold back her tears. As Nneka ran out of the hall in shame, one of their friends named Funke exclaimed, "I knew it! Well, thank God my husband can never cheat." But Toke turned to her and sneered, Your husband can never cheat on you because you feed him. He is flat broke. He is the wife while you are the husband. But does he know how you got that your big promotion? I'm sure he would love to know just how hard you worked for it." Funke's face crumbled and she turned nervously towards her husband, who was standing among the crowd, looking both bewildered and betrayed. Without another word, he turned on his heel and walked out angrily. Everywhere was in commotion and the crowd scattered. The epic wedding had finally ended, but it would not be forgotten in a hurry. Toke returned home and wept that night. She felt guilty for ruining her friend's marriage, but then she knew it was not fair for these men to be deceiving them. She would rather be hated for telling the truth than loved for hiding lies. She tried to reach Uju, but her lines were switched off, and the rest of her friends were not reachable too. The silence was consuming, and it left a painful ache in her chest. She believed she had done what she thought was right, but at this moment, the weight of it felt unbearable. A week passed, and then, unexpectedly, there was a knock at Toke's door. When she opened it, it was Uju standing there, looking both sorrowful and grateful. "Thank you, Toke. I couldn't see it, but you were looking out for me. At least now I know that he is not who I thought he was. I can't even imagine being married to him now. Who knows, he would have continued cheating and then start to blame me for it when he knows fully well that he is the one who is loose." Toke hugged her tightly. "I am sorry, Uju. I never wanted to hurt you. I just couldn't stand by and let him ruin your life. Men like him deserve to be exposed. You deserve better." Uju nodded. "I am better off knowing the truth, no matter how painful it is, and for that I am grateful." Uju then reached out to the other ladies, and they all agreed to go for a lunch date. All of them were present except Kelly. They ordered drinks, and as they sipped, Sharon was the first to share what she had been through since the revelation at the wedding. "You won't believe that I caught them both red-handed that day. And even when I tried to demand an explanation from my husband, he was unapologetic. He didn't even deny it and even said that he preferred the maid over me. He said I could leave if I wanted. Well, I moved out and he has not even called me since. It still baffles me how I had not seen what was happening right under my nose. Anyway, since he is proud of his actions and doesn't feel remorse, I won't beg him. He has made his choice, so I already told my lawyer to prepare divorce papers. Honestly, I think I was just too comfortable with being Mrs. Somebody that I chose to be blind. Now, it is just Sharon, and I like it that way. No pretenses, no masks." The ladies sighed deeply and sympathized with Sharon, encouraging her to stay strong. Nneka then spoke up next. "Funny thing is, I always had my suspicions, but I was so scared of confronting my husband. But after everything came out, I realized how much of myself I had given up to keep a lie intact. When I confronted him, he confessed and agreed to end things with the lady. We are currently going through therapy and working for reconciliation. It is hard to rebuild the trust, but little by little, I believe since he is willing, things will get better. The ladies were relieved and pledged their support to Nneka whenever she needed them. They then turned to Funke, who had been silent the whole time. My husband is really disappointed in me, but he has decided to take up whatever job he sees, no matter how little, until he gets something bigger, so as to be able to provide for the home. I had to go to my church counseling department to confess, and they are working to reconcile me and my husband together. I know it will take a while, but I am ready to put in the work. Toke heaved heavily and apologized to them for exposing their marriages like that, but they thanked her for being a good friend and for looking out for them. It was better for them to know than to continue being deceived by the men. No matter how painful it was, we can't deny the fact that you helped us bring honesty to our lives and forcing us to confront the truths we might have otherwise ignored. For that, we are grateful. They then asked Uju what she would do with Chuka, and Uju laughed bitterly. Chuka is not even remorseful. He is arrogant and even wants to force me to accept him that way, claiming that his father had 4 wives and they all lived together in peace. Well, I told him that I would never reduce my standards for him. He should go after the women who don't mind being the 50th wife. I have decided to end the marriage on the grounds of deceit. Just then, Kelly walked in looking visibly remorseful. She went up to Uju and apologized. Uju, I can't forgive myself for what I did. And so, if you choose not to forgive me, I will understand. It is the lowest thing I have ever done, and I will carry that shame. I am really sorry. I should have protected you instead of betraying you. Please forgive me. Uju was silent for a moment before reaching out for Kelly's hands. You don't need to punish yourself. We all make mistakes. I have forgiven you. I just want us to move forward and be better. Let's not allow ourselves to be manipulated and used in these men's games. That is all I ask. They both shared a warm embrace and Kelly sat down with them. Toke, who had been listening calmly as they all shared their progress, was impressed and greatly at peace with herself, knowing that the brutal sin she created did not destroy in total, but helped her friends to embrace their truths and become more self-aware. She raised up her glass for a toast to truth, and they all clinked their glasses. Finally, Uju turned to Toke. Toke, I know you have been hurt deeply, and I can only imagine the strength it took for you to stand up to do what you did at my wedding. You risked everything for me, for all of us, and I'll never forget that. Toke smiled softly. I couldn't watch you all live a lie. I thought I was doing it for you, but maybe I needed this as much as you all did. I am tired of carrying all this anger. I think it is time I let it go. Kelly grinned mischievously. Does this mean we'll finally see Toke on a date again? The room erupted in laughter as Toke rolled her eyes. Let's not push it, alright? I'm still figuring things out, one step at a time. But as they laughed together, Toke knew that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take that step someday. She no longer felt the need to shield herself from everyone. Her walls had served their purpose, but now she was ready to let them down, even if it was just a little. They toasted one final time, raising their glasses high, to truth, to friendship, and to starting afresh. Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story. What would you have done if you were in Toke's shoes? Would you have spoken up or remained silent and allowed your friends enjoy their facade? I would love to read your comments. Please share the story out with your loved ones. Subscribe if you've not done so already and give the story a thumbs up. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!